bowls to Hansie Cronje.
Words cannot begin to describe the shame, humiliation and pain which I feel.
And that could be 4 more. But the crowd rises to applaud Cronje's half-century.
Cronje goes to the well again, and this time connects.
Sanjay phoned me and urged me to go ahead with fixing the match, and I gave in.
The allegations are outrageous. Hansie Cronje is a man of unquestionable honesty and integrity. I'm absolutely certain not one of our players would ever contemplate being involved in match fixing.
Over a decade of professional matches and out of the abyss of apartheid South Africa, Hansie Cronje asserted himself as one of the finest cricket captains of his era and catapulted South Africa to the top of the cricketing world. However, dark match-fixing secrets, his unmitigated power and lust for money, were brought to the public eye when he admitted a long line of match-fixing abuses, from post-apartheid treasure to his mysterious plane crash death. Today, we'll recount the legendary journey of the infamous South African captain. Born on September 25th, 1969, in Bloemfontein, South Africa, Hansie Cronje emerged as a product of both nature and nurture, inheriting his family's sporting genes while also being shaped by the exacting sporting community that raised him to emulate their traditional ideals of masculine Afrikaaner toughness on the field. Hansie's father and grandparents were tennis, rugby, and cricket champions. Some of their records, Hansie went on to break in his cricketing career, and he also grew up with fellow South African cricket hero, Alan Donald. As a tactician and leader, Hansie excelled at the mental mind games that are evident in so many elite athletes. Sports became the perfect arena to leverage his gifted intellect, apparent at a very young age. He was adept at sledging his opponents, and stories abound about him documenting the prize money he won from his relatives for each run he tallied. Hansie also quickly picked up English, as his family hosted international cricketers who visited his revered sporting family, further exposing the Cronjes to different languages and cultures. But around the same time South Africa's international sporting exile ended, he got his first international call for the 1992 World Cup. There, he made his international debut for South Africa's Proteas against Australia. His first shining moment during the event came when he managed to turn things around and secured a brilliant knock of 47 not out in the match against Pakistan, helping the Proteas in securing a victory. Soon after the World Cup, South Africa toured West Indies for a bilateral series. There, Hansie, after featuring in 3 ODIs, made his Test debut at Bridgetown. This was South Africa's first Test match after their readmission into international cricket. After the West Indies series, a devastated Hansie Cronje turned to Christianity for solace after a fateful car accident where a young girl dashed onto the road and died from the impact. Despite Cronje's best efforts to prevent the tragic collision, haunted by the horrific trauma, Cronje plunged into Christianity as he grappled profoundly with the accident. In the South African summer of 1992, they were toured by India. In the first ODI, Hansie became a star with his historic 6 to win the match, when 6 off 4 was required. An excellent bowling performance ensured his permanent place on the team and was the start of his great career. Hansie, despite being the youngest on the team, was now the vice captain, Kepler Wessels still being the leader and captain of the pack. However, following injury, leadership would be passed from Kepler to Hansie, debuting as the Proteas captain on January 8, 1994 against New Zealand, where he led his team to series victory. After taking over the captaincy, Hansie Cronje implemented a new regime for the team, and alongside coach Englishman Bob Woolmer, they pioneered an analytics-based age of international cricket. Hansie's ruthless and competitive African stoicism shone through, and the Proteas won 27 out of 53 tests. They lost only 11, as 15 tests resulted in a draw. These numbers are great without a doubt, but when it comes to ODIs, his captaincy record is even more phenomenal. He led the Proteas in 138 ODIs and brought victory in 99 of them, comparable to the top 5 greatest captaincy records of all time.
I must congratulate in particular Captain Hansie Cronje.
Hansie Cronje would go on to lead his team in 2 World Cups, the Wills World Cup of 1996 and the 1999 ICC World Cup. Though Sri Lanka and Australia won these cups, Hansie Cronje did manage to bring one trophy home in between the 2 events, the ICC Knockout Trophy of 1998, the only major championship in the Proteas cricket history. The young cricketer's future was bright. Cronje was on an amazing trajectory. However, things took an unexpected turn.
Innings forfeit. This is the first time ever that teams have forfeited an innings in a test match.
In the 2000 Centurion Test, rain wiped out 3 days of play, seemingly sealing South Africa's 1-0 series win. Yet, resolving not to settle for a draw, Hansie Cronje stunned England with an unprecedented forfeiture proposal to instead engineer a risky run chase finale, lauded by some as audaciously sporting, but condemned by others as arrogantly reckless, though none suspected the match-fixing machinations inexorably set in motion by Cronje's fateful and ultimately fatal gambit.
Obviously disappointed in losing, you can see that in his face, but goodness me, what great entertainment we've had.
Unfortunately, it was. On the 7th of April, the Delhi police charged Hansie for match fixing in one of the ODI matches. They released transcripts of a conversation that they claimed was between Hansie and Sanjeev Chawla, an Indian businessman and allegedly a bookie. Hansie denied the charges, and South Africans stood in his support.
All I will say is that I was not involved in fixing or manipulating the results of cricket matches. I always played to win.
However, further development would come to strengthen the charges made against him. Some of Hansie's own Proteas players, including Pat Simcox and Herschel Gibbs, testified about the strange commands given to them by Hansie earlier. With this, more and more players started to testify against him.
So what he basically said, I must underperform in that game.
I wanted to cover up as much as I can, as Mr. Gibbs and Mr. Williams testified.
And did he tell you how much money you would get as a result of this?
25,000 euros, that was the amount I can remember.
On June 10th, Hansie was offered immunity if he disclosed all the details within the next 3 days. However, his complete confession came only on June 23rd, where he acknowledged that great passion for the game and my teammates was accompanied by an unfortunate love for money. His confession was a shock to everyone. Hansie's teammate, Daryl Cullinan, mentioned in his interview with ESPN that it shocked the team more than anyone. He mentioned that if it were not for his confession, he would never have believed it.
Unfortunately, I took the money, and it is a mistake that I made, and I accept it.
This is how Hansie's amazing cricket career came to a not-so-amazing end. When South Africa re-entered international cricket in 1991 under the united banner of a democratic rainbow nation, the team symbolized the country's racial reconciliation and progression beyond apartheid's divisions. Cronje callously exploited those very racial fault lines by approaching non-white players about fixing. Perhaps he assumed, as a white Afrikaaner, that their loyalty could be more easily bought. While Henry Williams tearfully recounted Cronje's bullying coercion, Cronje's careful confession revealed only what investigators already knew. Further investigations exposed Hansie Cronje's immense riches from corruption, revealing a staggering 72 Cayman Island bank accounts overflowing with match-fixing spoils, which the disgraced former captain had concealed even at his final hour of reckoning before the cricket world. In selling out his country's ideals alongside its sport, Cronje gutted South African cricket's proud principles of racial justice from the inside out. Governing bodies failed to implement proper governance controls around player access and movements. Cronje conducted shadow operations as he pleased, frequently meeting bookmaker Marlon Arenstam and other underworld figures on foreign tours.
And I wanted to make an arrangement with Mr. Arenstam to cover up as well, yes.
Charming yet cunning, Arenstam exploited the increasingly corrupt Cronje's burgeoning lust for money into systematic match-fixing networks, reaping millions. Banned from having an international career, Hansie Cronje was hoping for a second chance. He kept apologizing to the nation and cricket fans around the world. According to his close friend and fellow Protea, Jonty Rhodes, he was on his path to redemption. In those days, he was also venturing into businesses outside the cricket world. He started to work as an account manager at Bell Equipment, selling construction equipment. On the 31st of May, 2002, he had his last business meeting in Swaziland. On his way back home, he got stuck in traffic and ended up missing his flight. So instead, he hitched a ride on an empty plane, HS 748. On its way, it crashed in the Otinaqua Mountains, killing him and the 2 pilots aboard. His journey in this world came to an end just 2 years after the ban. However, even today, there are speculations that it was foul play that led to his untimely demise. As per what the Civil Aviation Authority told us, the plane crash was caused by the pilots losing vision amidst the clouds. Many would believe it to be true. However, there are speculations that will make you believe otherwise. To this day, there are conspiracies suggesting that Hansie was murdered. One of those people who believe in this conspiracy is Gavin Branson, chief executive of Airquarius, the airline that owned the crashed plane. I have a million questions that I haven't even started asking yet. We'd been flying that route daily and in far worse weather without experiencing even a hint of trouble. Also, closing the case, an investigator said, the full cost of a follow-up investigation would be too great in a country that is already riven by crime. More than 2 decades onwards after his death, cricket fans still remember him. But those who remember him the most are his family. His family runs a cricket academy for underprivileged children. His brother Frans Cronje, who became a film producer later in his career, produced the film Hansie, A True Story, to honor his brother. Hansie's sister, Hester Parsons, mentioned that not a day goes by at their house without remembering Hansie.
That even though Hansie made a mistake, he was still the same Hansie, a kind and loving husband.
After the ghosts of Cronje's tragic 1992 car accident led him to Christ's door, his Judas-like betrayal leveraged faith's moral currency to conceal his pact with the devil before his crucifixion spectacle. Despite the damage Hansie did to the game of cricket, his martyrdom shielded accomplices and negligent officials as he cast himself as the sacrificial lamb to atone for the sins of the cricketing world.